Hey everyone, this is Anna Woods with sheSTRENGTH. Thank you guys for joining me for episode 2 today, discussing my journey to sheSTRENGTH and how I am at the place in life where all of my friends are in my computer. Make sure and put your headphones in, get out in a nice quiet space. If you're at the gym, hop on a treadmill or a bike. As we talk today, I'm going to be giving you cardio intervals to work out to while we're chatting. So take me with you to the gym. No excuses for getting a workout in while you're listening to this. You're going to hear a beep in the background every 20 to 30 seconds, and that will mean you either walk faster, you jog faster, you bike faster, you row faster, and then the next beep you hear, you rest. You either go slower or you stop. So let's continue this cardio circuit while we chat about how sheSTRENGTH got established in 2007. It is episode 2. Thank you guys for joining me again for the podcast, All My Friends Are in My Computer. Make sure you go back and listen to last month's podcast. We talked about the very, very beginnings of where this journey of sheSTRENGTH began for me. And I'm wanting to share my story because so much of what I coach women to do today and so much of what I do now is my personal journey that I'm taking you on. So I love for you all to know where all this comes from, where all these beliefs, where all these ideas, where all these motivations come from. It's because I've lived this out. I've been this person, and now I want to help you do better. I want to become the lighthouse for the rest of you to learn from and not end up where I ended up personally. So last time I told you a little bit about how we got married. I graduated from college. We found out we were expecting. I had applied for PA school, and I was excited about interviewing and being accepted in the PA school. Plans changed dramatically when we found out we were expecting. I was very sick, could not make it to class a lot. About the same time, Katrina hit, and my husband had to go work for several months away. He was a power lineman, and I had a lot of decisions and things to figure out on my own, in my own time, as to what my future was going to look like with a child, and not being PA school and not being in the medical field, but instead figuring out what I was going to do with this exercise science degree and my passion for helping people. So I had a lot of time to think on that, obviously. I was working at the College Wellness Center at the time as a personal trainer. I was working in a physical therapy office, being a physical therapy assistant. So at the time that was allowed. I got to be able to take clients back, take them through corrective exercises and work through rehab programs that the head physical therapist had me do with her patients. I worked there a couple days a week throughout my whole entire pregnancy. And then we had Leah in May, and about that time was when I had to start figuring out what I was going to do. I had a lady keep her for me while I would work out with a few clients at the College Wellness Center. I would take her with me to work at our PT clinic. That worked great for the first 2 months as she was little and slept most of the time, but as she got more mobile, I realized very quickly I was going to have to figure out something else. Around that same time, my husband took a new job in Kansas, and so we moved from Oklahoma to Kansas. We moved to a very rural area surrounded by lakes, so my husband could do his fishing but also still do his power lineman work. And I had no plan. Just at that time was to take care of my baby and hopefully figure out what I wanted to do with my health and fitness career, because I was not wanting my sole identity to be motherhood. To be completely transparent, never had dreams of being a mom. It wasn't something I grew up wanting to do. In fact, I really had no aspirations of ever becoming a mom. But God had other plans for me, and so I became a mom very quickly and had to become very humble very quickly, realizing that my life was going to look different than what I had planned originally. So we moved to central Kansas. My husband took his new job. Leah was 4 months old at the time. And we moved some exercise equipment into the basement of our house. We lived out on a couple acres. As we got familiar with the town, I come to realize there was no gym in that town. There was no fitness programming. There was no wellness centers. There were no swimming pools. There was no YMCA. There was nothing within 25 to 30 miles of where we lived. Absolutely nothing. So at that time, I had to get very creative. So we bought some dumbbells, a curl bar. We had kind of a squat setup station. We moved it into our basement, and I just worked out by myself while Leah napped, all trying at this time to figure out what my next step was going to be. How could I grow a business in central Kansas in the middle of nowhere with nothing available to me? We had a kind of a barn garage gym that we had all of our storage in at the time as we were slowly redoing the house. And so this whole concept of working out over my lunch hour or working out over my lunch hour when my child was sleeping, I should say, between nursing. I didn't have a lot of friends at the time, so I had a lot of time to think. And so I came up with this concept of other women having to be in the same situation as me. I couldn't be the only one.
Rest.
So I started driving around town. I started handing out flyers about personal training services at my house from 12 to 2 p.m. in the daytime. So that was the only time I could do personal training because that was the only time she would somewhat sleep. And with my husband's work schedule, there was not another option. So I had 1 or 2 clients start coming out, and that led to a little bit more. And as I got into it more, I really started realizing my love for training special populations. I loved working with elderly. I loved working with people in wheelchairs. I loved working with people whose health was their lifeline. I didn't love working with people whose main goal was vanity gains, to get a six-pack or to be skinny. I loved working with people whose goal was to maintain independence as long as possible, or for the little old lady who wanted to continue to pick her hair after she got her perms every Friday, or for the man who wanted to continue to help his wife get in and out of her wheelchair or transfer her from the stool to her wheelchair, or the mom who needed to help transport her son with cerebral palsy from his bed to his wheelchair every day. Those were the kind of people that I created a passion and love for helping and saw the power of strength training being so effective. So I worked with our local retirement village, and every week for 6 months, I called the director and said, when you're ready to hire someone to develop a program for your residents, let me know. And then the next week I'd call and be like, I'm working on a program to develop for your residents. I would love to implement it at some point. I've got more education, more continuing education in the field of helping people with chronic needs and wheelchairs. And I would love to implement some of the stuff I'm learning. And I did this every week for months. And every time, nope, we're not ready. Nope, we don't have a plan in place. This doesn't seem to fit where we're headed. And finally, one day, she called me back and said, let's do this. And so I grabbed all my dumbbells and all my bands and went into the nursing home first and carried my wagon of weights in there. And it started out with just working with 1 or 2 elderly people in the central meeting area for 30 minutes. We did some band exercises, we did some dancing, we did some rhythm aerobics, and I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants based off what I had learned and what I felt was effective as far as strength training goes. And that turned into 2 days a week, and that turned into 3 days a week, and pretty soon it turned into now I would offer several classes for different abilities, and then I would offer several classes in the nursing home, each of the independent living homes, and in the assisted living home. So I got to where I was working 5 mornings a week. I would work from 8 to 12. I had Leah, someone would watch Leah for me, and then it started progressing into where I'd work into the afternoon. And I would bring her playpen with me with my dumbbells. She would sleep in her playpen while I taught the elderly class at Parkside Homes in the afternoon. Well, that eventually led to me then working with adults with special needs. One of the OTs that I worked with closely in the retirement village said I have a sister with Down syndrome. She's extremely obese, and her obesity is starting to affect her health, and she's still young. She's in her early 30s. Would this be something or someone you would be willing to work with? And I was like, of course, I would love to. So I went and started working with her, and this was in a different town. This eventually led to me, I started working with her. She ended up losing like 80 pounds. This led to me starting to work with other clients with special needs, with autism, with Down syndrome, with other developmental delays, which led then to my work with working with an entire group of people, which led me to my work with Disability Supports of the Great Plains. So in addition to working with the elderly at Parkside Homes, now I had developed my business into working with adults with special needs 1 day a week, 2 days a week in a neighboring town, in the same type of philosophy of strength training, always being the basic grounds for what I was doing, because I saw the power of these people needing to have strength and balance and stability in their life in terms of their physical health to help them with all other areas of life. And that turned into almost a full-time job for me. Leah got a little bit older. Eventually she went to preschool, and I was able to work more full-time. And this kind of became the consistency of my schedule for several years in a row. Personally, myself, I was doing a lot of running. I ran a marathon. I ran multiple half marathons. My sister and my mom and I traveled around and competed in triathlons, so I was doing a lot of endurance training on the weekends on top of that. So over the course of graduating in 2005 to, this was about 2007, 2008, I had kind of started to get a rhythm and a niche and a passion for my training. And it was really cool to look back and see what I had started to gain momentum with. And looking back now, seeing where that sort of forged the fitness of where I'm at today. Little by little, step by step, phone call by phone call, connection to connection, got me all these bits and pieces of form who I am now and how I train all of you now. So I did that for several years, and I got really busy. At the same time, I discovered we were having trouble having a second child. Leah was 2 to 3 years old, and we decided we wanted to try again for another one. She needed a sister or a brother. This was when I was doing a lot of running. My cycles at that time had gotten really off, but didn't think anything of it because I was doing a lot of endurance training. So we go to try to have a child and find out very quickly that it is not going to be an easy task. We went to reproductive specialist who told us it just wasn't in the books for us to naturally have another kid, which made no sense to me because we had one very easily first time around. So we did a lot of hormones. I did a lot of I did synthetic hormones. I did medications. We did progesterone. We did estrogen. We did Clomid. We did everything basically but IVF. No luck. And so I decided to just stop everything. I had tried every diet out there. I had lost weight. I had gained weight. I got to feeling terrible. I gained like 30 pounds. My acne got really bad. My running was awful. My joints hurt all the time. I wasn't sleeping. I started losing a lot of hair. I got really depressed and really, really struggled mentally and emotionally from about 2008 to 2010. We did all of these different things and we're getting zero answers. And this became a time for me of feeling out of control in terms of my health. I couldn't get it back under control. I had been able to control it up until now, and now I feel like I was out of control. Nothing was working. I kept gaining weight. I was working out harder. I was eating less. I was doing green strengths. I was doing multivitamins. I was taking all these supplements. I was doing everything everyone was telling me, and yet I could not get the weight to stop rolling onto me. The scale kept going up every time I got on the scale. So I ended up about 2009, end of 2009, just stopping everything. I just quit. I was done. I did not care anymore. And I was tired of trying to try all these things everyone was telling me. So we started looking into adoption at that time. Didn't look into anything super seriously, but just put that in the back of our mind as an option at some point, because it looked at that point like having kids wasn't going to be in the books for us, besides Leah. So adoption was our next plan of action. But looking back now, little did I know, in the middle of that year, 2009, was when Blake was being born. Blake was born November 1st, 2009. This was about the time where I had given up hope on everything and just concluded that a second child, naturally childbirthing, homegrown, birthing myself out of my body was not going to be an option. Little did I know, half a world away, the child that would become our next child was being born. I just didn't know it at that time. So it's super cool to look back on that now and see where that change was happening. I just wasn't aware of it yet. So trusting the process. If you're in the middle of something at this point in time and you're not seeing answers and it seems crazy what's happening, you never know what's happening a world away that's going to make perfect sense at some point for you. So we ended up looking into naturopathic health. I looked into integrative health. I looked into a holistic approach. And it was life-changing for me. And it forges a lot of how I coach nutrition for people now. But we looked at the issues of candida and having a very acidic system. We looked at the issues related to hormones levels being off, related to adrenal fatigue. We looked at how exercise, maybe I wasn't exercising as hard as I wanted to at that point in time, but years of over-exercising and not eating enough finally caught up with me. Overworking. I was working a lot of hours and still trying to be up at night with a daughter who wasn't sleeping great. Working with a husband whose schedule was crazy and wasn't around, so it was a lot of me doing stuff by myself. All of those things had compounded and come to a head at the end of this time when I were ready to have another kid, and I wasn't allowed to because my body was completely exhausted. I was starting to have heart problems, so slowly, as my adrenal fatigue got worse, my systems were shutting down one by one. I just didn't know it because I was not in tune with my body at that point in time. And the naturopathic doctor I worked with was helping me to see these things. So we started boosting my immune system, adding things in that were nourishing and helpful. And so my immune system started taking care of itself, and my heart issues got better, and my hair started growing back. my acne started going away. I started losing weight, and I was actually not even working out at that point in time, just doing a little bit of strength training and a lot of foam rolling and recovery type of things. And it sort of started taking care of itself. And in 2010, we found out we were expecting. A huge answer to prayer, because we really thought that was not going to be in the books for us. And I literally still continued to lose weight, and I still was not working out a ton. I was not working out. I was eating way more than I normally ate. I was eating way more carbs than I normally ate. But all of these things were making me feel better. I had more energy to want to be myself and be the person who I thought I was this whole time, but couldn't find deep down under all of the depression and hormone imbalance and all these things that I was being told to do. So we had Autumn in October of 2010. We had Autumn Grace. We named her Grace because we felt like she was a gift from God, and we named her Autumn because her due date was originally the first day of fall. But this whole entire time, I still had in the back of my mind this thought process of adoption, because I felt like God laid it on my heart. I just didn't know where it was supposed to go at that time. And in the meantime, I was also starting to realize the long endurance, high hours of training were not going to be happening for me with 2 kids. I could only push a double stroller so many miles. I could only train 30 minutes as opposed to 1 hour, 2 hours on the weekends like I had been doing before. So my whole approach to my fitness had to be changed as well. 1, because of time limitations with 2 kids now. 2, because I saw what the long endurance, overwhelming hours of training had done to my system before, and I did not want to go back to that. So this is where the whole concept of high intensity interval training came in. This is where the mentality of working at a higher intensity, working with heavier weights for 30 minutes instead of 2 hours started to become a theme for me. I started researching different elements of CrossFit endurance, CrossFit football. I started looking at CrossFit in general. I started looking at some other forms of fitness as far as Olympic weightlifting and power training, and how all these things started coming together and started to form how I was going to start working out from here on out. How I was going to lose the baby weight, how I was going to get my strength back, how was I going to find self-motivation for myself to get workouts in with this whole new approach to my life and training. So we will get into that on the next podcast, but I wanted to share with you guys kind of part 2, how sheSTRENGTH was established, where it all came from, and you're going to start seeing how these things came together. But sheSTRENGTH was originally Woods Wellness, opened in January 2007, and my main training was with people in retirement communities and eventually adults with special needs. So that is where it all started for me in terms of Woods Wellness / sheSTRENGTH, and led me slowly bit by bit to where I am today. So thank you guys for joining me. You can find this on iTunes. You can find this on YouTube. If you're liking what you're listening, make sure to subscribe and make sure to leave a review for me on iTunes. I would appreciate that. Otherwise, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I would love to hear from you all. Any feedback you have about today's message, I would love to share and hear your story as well. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.